Welcome to another story made by Oracle 1. The Wyrm and the Wolf, Episode 2, The Silver Wyrm Rises. The mountains screamed before they burned. It began as a tremor, subtle enough that most mistook it for distant thunder. Stones rattled down old paths. Snow slid from high ridges in slow avalanches. Shepherds paused mid-step, hands tightening on crooks, hearts uneasy for reasons they could not name. Then the fire came. A line of molten light split the eastern peaks, carving through ancient rock as if the world itself had been wounded. Smoke rose in towering columns, black and silver intertwined, spiraling into the sky like a signal flare meant for the gods. Deep beneath the shattered stone, something ancient inhaled for the first time in centuries. Kalen dreamed of scales. He stood beneath an endless sky of ash, the ground beneath his feet cracked and glowing. A vast shadow moved above him, wings blotting out the light. He tried to raise his sword, but his arms were too heavy, his body locked in place. A massive eye opened in the darkness. Silver, ancient, burning with memory. Wolf, a voice rumbled, echoing through his bones rather than his ears. You still breathe. Kalen woke with a gasp, sitting upright in his cot, sweat soaking his skin. The camp was quiet, too quiet. Dawn light filtered through the canvas, pale and cold. For a moment, he thought the dream still clung to him, but then he felt it. The pendant, heavy and alert against his chest. Awake, he swung his legs over the side of the cot, wincing as bruises protested. His body felt wrong, stronger, yes, but taut, like a bowstring drawn too far. Outside, voices murmured. Tense, afraid, Kalen stepped out into the morning air. Men stood clustered in small groups, whispering. Some fell silent when they saw him. Others stared openly, eyes flicking to his chest, to his hands, as if expecting claws to burst forth again. Captain Roderick waited near the fire pit, his expression grim. You felt it, the captain said. It wasn't a question. Kalen nodded. Something woke up. Roderick exhaled slowly. Scouts returned an hour ago. The eastern mountains, they're burning. Entire ridges collapsed overnight. Kalen's stomach tightened. The Ashbound? No banners. No armies. Roderick's gaze sharpened. This is older than them. Kalen thought of the dream. The silver eye. It knows me, he said quietly. Roderick stiffened. Then the stories were wrong. Which stories? The captain hesitated, then gestured toward the tree line. Walk with me. They moved away from the camp, boots crunching on frost-hardened grass. Roderick stopped beside an ancient standing stone half buried in moss, its surface etched with symbols nearly worn away by time. This land remembers, Roderick said. Long before the Iron Watch, before the Ashbound, before crowns and borders. He traced one of the symbols with his finger. It depicted a wolf, jaws bared, facing a coiled serpent with wings. The wolf and the worm, Roderick continued. Bound enemies. Champions of opposing forces. They fought again and again across generations, reborn into new forms whenever the world tilted too far toward war. Kalen's chest felt tight. You're saying I'm a reincarnation. I'm saying, Roderick replied, that you carry the wolf's pact. And if the worm has risen, then the cycle has begun again. As if summoned by the words, a distant roar rolled across the sky. It was not thunder. It was not wind. It was something vast and alive, its voice shaking the air itself. Men cried out in alarm back at camp. Kalen's vision blurred. For a heartbeat, the world doubled, then sharpened with impossible clarity. He could feel the sound ripple through his bones. And beneath the fear, something else stirred. Recognition. The mountain split open as the silver worm emerged. Stone cascaded from its scales as it unfurled itself from its prison, wings stretching wide enough to blot out the sun. Its body was massive, serpentine, plated in overlapping silver-white scales that reflected the firelight like polished steel. It inhaled. Flames erupted from its jaws, not red or orange, but white-hot, pure and blinding. The blast tore through the mountainside, vaporizing rock and sending a shockwave rippling across the valley below. The Wyrm roared, a sound layered with triumph and fury. "I live again," it thundered. "And the world still burns." Memories flooded back, of a battlefield. Beneath blackened skies, of a wolf wreathed in ash and blood, of fangs tearing into its throat while spears pierced mortal flesh. The wolf. The silver worm's eyes narrowed as it turned its gaze westward. It felt him. By nightfall, refugees arrived. Villagers from the eastern foothills stumbled into Ironwatch territory, clothes scorched, faces ash-streaked, eyes hollow with terror. They spoke of firestorms, of shadows with wings, of a voice that promised annihilation. Kalen helped where he could, carrying the injured, offering water, steadying the shaking. But everywhere he went, fear followed him, not just of the dragon, but of him. A child stared up at his pendant and began to cry. Kalen stepped back, heart-twisting. That night, the pendant burned again. Not with pain, but with urgency. He slipped away from camp, following an instinct he didn't fully understand, letting the world blur as his senses sharpened. The forest opened before him, moonlight spilling across ancient stones half buried in earth. Beneath the stones, the ruins were older than any kingdom, their architecture alien, arches too wide, pillars carved with runes that hummed faintly as Kalen approached. At the center stood a circular dais cracked down the middle. The moment Kalen stepped onto it, the air ignited. Flames spiraled upward, forming a ring of fire around him. The pendant lifted from his chest, floating, its stone blazing silver. The wolf surged forth, not fully, but enough that claws scraped stone, enough that his voice layered with a growl. "Show yourself," Kalen demanded. The flames parted. A figure stepped through. He wore armor of scorched steel, his face marked by old burns that never healed. His eyes glowed faintly silver, mirroring the pendant's light. "I was wondering when you'd find this place," the man said calmly. Kalen tensed. "Who are you?" The man smiled, a sad, knowing expression. "Once, I was called Arctyros. Once, I wore the wolf as you do now." Kalen's breath caught. "You're dead." Arctyros shrugged. "Eventually. Death is flexible, where pacts are concerned." The ruins trembled as a distant roar echoed across the sky. Arctyros's gaze lifted. "He's awake. Stronger than last time." "You fought him," Kalen said. "Yes." Arctyros met his eyes. "And failed." Kalen's heart pounded. "Then why am I here?" "Because you have a choice," Arctyros replied. "One I never did." The pendant flared brighter. "The prophecy doesn't demand victory," Arctyros continued. "It demands conflict. The wolf and the worm, locked in endless war, feeding the balance through blood." Kalen clenched his fists. "I won't be your weapon." Arctyros smiled faintly. "Good. Because the worm remembers me." The ground shook violently. Flames guttered. A shadow passed over the ruins. Slow. Massive. Silver scales glinted through the treetops as the Wyrm descended, folding its wings with terrifying grace. Its eyes locked onto Kalen, pupils narrowing. "Wolf," the dragon rumbled, its voice shaking the stones. "You wear a new face, but the scent is the same." Kalen stepped forward despite the fear clawing at his spine. "You burned villages," he shouted. "You killed innocents." The worm's lips curled back, exposing rows of gleaming teeth. "So did you," it replied. "Across centuries. Across fields soaked in blood. Do not pretend your hands are clean." Memories surged. Flashes of other lives, other battles, the wolf tearing through armies, the dragon's fire-consuming cities. Kalen staggered. You remember now, the Wyrm said softly. Good. Arcteros moved to Kalen's side. He will end this, he declared. The Wyrm laughed, a sound like mountains cracking. End it? Its eyes burned brighter. Or fulfill it? The dragon reared back, wings unfurling, fire gathering in its throat. Choose, wolf, it roared. Break the cycle, or bleed with me until the world ends. Flames surged. Kalen felt the wolf clawing to be free. And for the first time, he wasn't sure which path terrified him more. For more stories, like and subscribe.